Welcome back to the Weekend Ball podcast. We've been, I'm here alongside Matty Ireland. I'm wearing my Shea jersey because that guy was ice cold and he was pretty cold to, a Greek player at the end of the game too, with a bit of pushing and shoving and calling other people mofo. But we are talking about the senior men's national team winning a game at the Olympics. Who would have thought, Maddie? How does it feel just to finally see the collection of talent? And we'll get to the game obviously later, but just to see them win and show up and show out at the Olympics as a diehard, what's it like for you?
Yeah, it's been a fun day, man. And a lot of lead up to it, and everyone was super excited that uh, followed this program for a long time, or maybe they're new to the program as well with the amount of talent we have now in Canada. But yeah, just a special day. I think there was a lot of hype, and rightfully so. And the guys delivered and didn't seem too phased by the moment. It's been a long time coming, and a lot of work has uh, gone into this to get the senior men's national team back into the Olympics. And I think we talked about it last week, where it's not just a team and a program limping in, if you will, to the Olympics. They're here to do some damage. They got big goals, and I think that's the other real exciting part of it is that like this team is legit. They've improved from last year at the World Cup. Um, so I hope everyone enjoyed the game today and still a long way to go in this tournament. But to get that first win right away is really good in this tough pool. And hats off to the guys. And as a whole, I thought they played really well. A little bit of a tougher finish, like we all saw. But yeah, a fun day, man. Such a fun day.
I just, I think the moment was really, and I posted on Twitter, but just seeing like the guys walk onto the court for the pregame warmups, and you just see Shea, Jamal Murray, RJ Barrett, and you think, oh my God, it's been so long where you just dreamt of it, and just to see it in Paris was just for me, just something that I'll hold pretty special. And obviously, I covered the team, so I won't, lie if I got a bit emotional just seeing it and even talking about it now. Just how cool it is to, we've been obviously you especially, but just such lovers of this program, basketball in this country, and obviously the women have done amazing things, but for guys that like us that looked up to NBA players, and now just to have it all consummated on one team with the talent is just it's so incredible. And you know to go to the game, as you said, it was everything you worried about in a game for this team, right? uh the Greeks, especially to begin the game, just draining threes. Obviously, at the end of the game, by the last little bit, Powell, um, Dylan Brooks, Lou Dort all got fouled out with a bunch of pretty questionable calls, and we'll
Yep.
get to that as well. Giannis was amazing, and despite that, they still I wouldn't call it a comfortable win because it wasn't, but they still held through. They didn't really break at all, even with the foul trouble, even with, a Trey Lyles turnover at the end. Shea gets that crazy bank shot, slips and slides past a couple defenders, banks it over Giannis. And that's just the determination and just really, I think, this team growing in front of our eyes, right? And it's just so fun to watch. And there is obviously flaws in the size with this team, but just to see Shea take over at the end of games, when you saw Giannis kind of struggle a little bit. And that's the thing, right? That's the thing that Canada has is almost against anyone, they have the best player on the court. And I think Shea was the best player on the court despite Giannis's numbers today, where he had like 33, and I'll get it up the box score. But just talk about Shea and just how good he was tonight for Canada.
Well, he's everything that, Canada needs and hopes for, right? And you just know that the ball is going to be in his hands and he's going to make a smart play. And um, I think this is a moment he's relishing, building off of uh, his moments last summer in the World Cup. And, the team has a lot of confidence in him. Obviously, the coaching staff does too. And, if you want to talk like maybe superstar versus superstar. Like, Shea also had a lot of help today. RJ Barrett was tremendous in this game, and Giannis did everything he could, but doesn't have the depth around him, and that's something we've preached about with Canada and the senior men's national team going to the Olympics, where they improved the depth uh, from last summer, and yeah, like Shea just building, from last summer to his season in Oklahoma City, and to now in Paris, and you know, uh, you got to feel really good with him leading the team, and he seemed a bit more edgy today. I think like he knows like this was a big start for them at the end of the game. I don't know if a lot of people really saw, but Giannis almost kind of put a forearm in his
Yeah, he
neck
did. Yeah.
for whatever reason, and everyone was stepping up and backing Shea, and nobody liked that. So maybe that's something for them to kind of build on moving forward. But yeah, no, great performance by Shea, and I like the depth, and that's going to be needed because he got a little wore out last summer, like everyone knows, and we're going to need other guys to contribute to have success for this team, man.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, right? Is when Powell and Dort went to the bench, they brought on Trey Lyles, they brought on Kem Birch for a little stint, and that's the thing that this team really didn't have last year, and you can really feel just, especially with Andrew Nemhard, who I thought played pretty well as well off the bench. They just they never really lost a step, while last year's team, you really noticed the difference when Shea went off the court, and um, you know, Jordy, didn't took him off, and he didn't play for like 5-10 minutes or 5 or 6 minutes in the first half, which you wouldn't have really seen in last year's team. And you could see just at the end of the game, Shea didn't look tired. He didn't look spent at all, which he sometimes did. Not a lot last summer, but in a couple moments. So I think what's really, really exciting was just that, the first game of the Olympics, there's a lot of nerves, there's a lot of anticipation, and to get it out of the way, to eke out that result, I think will really give the team a lot of confidence heading into the game against Australia, who I think is probably the best team in this group outside of Canada, and played really well this today as well, with Josh Giddey and Jacques Landale playing really well. But I think RJ Barrett has to be shouted out. Obviously, he had more points than Shea at 23. He, especially in that first half, was just everywhere, getting to the line, making open shots, making nice passes. He found Brooks for a really nice kind of slingshot pass on the baseline, cross court to Brooks in his shooting pocket, who drained it. And he was just really good. Even on the defensive end, I thought he was all right too. Wasn't getting beat too much. So um, that's really the three-headed monster is Shea, Dylan Brooks, and RJ Barrett. And I thought all three of them were really, really good today. And that's why Canada won.
Yeah, especially because like Dylan's got to really bring it on both ends, right? And he was the primary guy for Giannis, and trying to make things difficult for that guy. I mean, he's still gonna get his, but um, you know, Dylan has to be mindful of his fouls on the defensive end, but he's contributing offensively too, and he just he seems to be such a beast for this program and the senior men's national team. I don't know what it is about it. I think he just relishes it, and he loves to be around these guys, and he loves to be their teammate and represent. So, um, I thought overall, like, listen, the game was a little tight at the end. Obviously, Canada led the whole way, um, and then I don't feel like it was ever in doubt necessarily, but some tough situations, and I thought also, there's been a lot of talk and speculation about some of the rotation and lineup stuff, especially in the exhibition game where Jordy Fernandez was playing around with different lineups and trying to limit minutes, and even today, there was moments we were like, okay, Shea better get back out there. Um, but they weathered it. And I think because it's a short tournament, these extra few minutes that Shea was maybe able to sit today might pay off, especially in the group play, like the next game against Australia. That's gonna be the really the tell all, I think, for this group, right? Um, the group they're in. So, um, I thought Dwight Powell had a good game, man. Like he was strong on both ends, and he seems really light and bouncy out there. And as a group, they were like a starter group. I thought they were really good, man.
Yeah, no, and that was the interesting thing is I don't necessarily love Lou Dort in the starting lineup. I don't mind obviously Murray off the bench, but it's like, do they have enough shooting, enough playmaking with him, Brooks on the same court with RJ?
That
But
was necessary today because of Giannis, right? So
no, no,
there's a
but what I'm trying
switch.
to say, yeah, is that the starters were amazing, and then the only thing that held them back was that they kept picking up fouls and then would have to get off, right? And Canada jumped out to a lead, and then Lou Dort gets two fouls, right? They get up to a little lead to start the third quarter, and then Dort and Powell get four fouls with I think 7 minutes left, or something like that in the third quarter, and then Greece comes back, right? And that was the thing, was the starters played so well but just couldn't stay out of foul trouble. And I'll have my little FIBA officiating rant right now, where I still think of Trey Lyles gets smacked above the head in a transition, and then Jamal Murray comes down on the rebound thinking there's a foul on Lyles, and he
Yeah.
gets fouled, right? And then Dylan Brooks on his fifth foul, just they double team Giannis, and Giannis just jumps into him, literally doesn't do anything. He's just there, and they call a fifth foul, right? And it's like, well, what are you doing? And we've talked about the officiating a lot, but that's something that just FIBA is notoriously bad at. Where, if you look at the free throws, Canada I think had more free throws attempts than the Greeks. Yet they were all in foul trouble, and that seems a bit. It's like, who are you giving the fouls to? And obviously Giannis is a huge part of it, but it didn't not too many of the fouls were just directly on Giannis getting by a guy and stopping him from scoring at the rim. It was like little touch fouls like the one Brooks had at the top of the key. So yeah, FIBA officiating, man. It is what it is, but I don't know. I don't want I'm just here so I don't get fined. So I'm gonna move on. But what did you think about maybe the decision with Jamal Murray coming off the bench? Because I thought that was in the works. I didn't know if it would happen, and it did. And I thought as the game progressed, he got more and more comfortable. He made two really good shots in the third quarter to kind of stem one of the pushes by the Greeks. But what did you think of Murray's performance today?
Well, I think we've seen enough like lead up to this first game going from camp and then the exhibition games, where it was probably trending this way where Jamal Murray's going to come off the bench. So, um, I thought like I agree with you. He got stronger throughout the game. I seemed a bit more comfortable. Obviously getting more of a rhythm and flow and getting minutes, right? But if the matchups dictate it defensively, because listen, like Canada's a problem on defense, man. So this is where they're gonna, make their hay. And um, if they want to go with the same starter group on Tuesday against Australia, I think you can't fault it and just, see where that kind of gives you your bench minutes. And you know, it gives you just another score, creator, shot maker off the bench. Now Jamal's got to play a little better, a little bit shaky overall. I thought he had some good moments, and I just think the second unit too, as a group, has just got to be more
But they
assertive.
haven't they basically haven't played together, and that's the thing. Like our friend Witter would always mention, is what he was worried about Jamal Murray, and we talked about it on the last podcast, was that he's not acclimatized with these guys. And in a sense, the good news is that he wasn't acclimatized and they won the game, right? And he got a bunch of minutes with the guys. And now hopefully in the Australia game it gets a bit better as well. I think him and Nemhard in a backcourt is really good. I think they really worked off each other. I thought they played well in that third quarter as well, to stem the tide a little bit from the Greeks. Both hitting a couple pull-ups, and just the offense ran decently smoothly. But he had that turnover when he first came in the game, in the first quarter, and And he looked shaky on the ball. But as the game progressed, he got better and better. I do think defensively he's a bit of a liability, and Jordy kept having him guard Calathes with Nemhard. I'm like, Nemhard's a way better defender. Why are you not? So I didn't really understand that by Jordy. But overall, it's a work in progress with Murray. But if the fact of the matter is that you win a game where Murray isn't super impactful, and you can kind of see strides where he got better. He had a couple open looks. He's a really good shooter. He still should make them eventually. All in all, I'm not surprised, but it will be interesting to see. Like, what do you think they do moving forward? Do you think he's going to be on the bench the rest of the tournament? Do you think they'll insert him into the starting lineup? What do you think happens there, especially after the starters played so well today?
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to look at, treat each matchup kind of game by game and just, you know, start the guys accordingly. Like, I don't know if they have a set plan going into every game. Okay, these are our starters from here on out, right? And, if Jamal starts, let's say over Lou Dort, then makes you a little weaker defensively. But hopefully you can get a little offense going. And, um, a couple things with Jamal off the bench and like Andrew Nemhard too. Like second unit just lacked, like in pick and roll situations today, they just lacked that finisher. Um, that you would have like even say a Dylan Brooks um, in a PNR type thing. So I don't know, they got to figure that out with the second unit, but I think we'll see going forward definitely too. Like you're not going to have a situation where either Shea, Jamal, or Andrew's not on the floor, right? Like one of those three's got to be on the floor, and hopefully most of the time, like two out of the three, right? So,
Mhm.
um, minus like starting, right away initially, right? But I think, that just gives them more and more time. And listen, there's going to be 2 days in between, uh, practice and shoot around and work on some things, and they'll make adjustments. But I think Jamal off the bench kind of just stems to the fact that he's new to the lineup going back to last summer, which obviously the team had a lot of success. So trying to integrate him into it to you know get some comfort, might just take a little bit more time. Like okay,
And I,
yeah, the
and
Olympics get started, we don't have much time, but you know, if it's what makes us go, then you know let's just do it. Obviously Jordy and the staff know better than anyone else does, right? So I trust what they're doing.
no, yeah, I mean the one thing I will say is that I think it's fair to say that Murray isn't 100%, and so I don't want to dog on him. I see people on Twitter kind of saying going after Murray a little bit, and I saw a meme today of like uh of Murray without Jokic that he's kind of lost, but I think a lot of that is just an injury. That's why he didn't play much against Puerto Rico. Why he's kind of taken some time. Even in the USA game, he didn't play that much, but he was with the starters for the most part. For me, this is I don't know, 50, 70% Jamal Murray. Still pretty good, but to expect him to be the 2023 finals version of Jamal Murray, I think is not what we should expect. And I think that's fair. And I think if you're going to get the 70% version of him, it's good to have him off the bench because I don't think he should be playing huge minutes. I still think because, as you mentioned, just the lack of chemistry, right? If you looked at that starter unit, they knew where to go, they knew where to be. You could tell they had played a lot of minutes last year. And you could tell with the second unit a little bit that there's a couple errant passes. Nemhard made in the second quarter, or it might have been the first, but just threw the ball completely away. It was just a miscommunication that you just didn't see with the guys that played last summer. So I do think over time, over this tournament, the one thing Canada has that outs they in the US will earn gain more than other teams is the fact that they'll probably get much better at per game than other teams will, just because of the chemistry aligning. So I wasn't too I'm not too worried, but let's see what happens against Australia. And I do think that in the end, we'll probably see the same starting five against Australia just with how this game went. But maybe talk about just how it did seem like Canada was not very good at stopping the Greeks from getting those open threes, especially in the first half. I think in the second half they defended a bit better, but then they got into even more foul trouble. But just maybe talk about how Canada tried to guard Giannis and his kickouts to 3-point shooters.
Well, the 3-point shooting is like a factor that, based on FIBA, like every team is trying to do this at a high level. Like this is how you win games because you can pack the paint, play zone, no defense in 3 seconds. So if every team is looking to win, like you got to shoot it well from the perimeter. And I just think in some situations, when they would double Giannis and rotate, they just didn't force that extra pass to make that corner shooter give it up one more time to allow rotation to come through and to match up. So obviously that's going to be something they're going to address. And I mean, listen, like you're going to double Giannis, and that's going to be the game plan and force him to give it up. He did that. Some guys hit some shots. We've seen teams throughout their exhibition games, everyone try to shoot the three at a high level, and like a lot of attempts. And that's, if you're looking throughout this tournament, that's, if the USA is going to be upset, Alex, that's how a team's going to beat them. They're going to shoot the piss out of the ball. And like, Canada today, Dylan shot well. Shea hit a three, a couple threes. I mean, listen, like Canada's going to have to do the same thing because it's just a style of play. That's the MO for every team, right? And we there's shooters all over the world, so every program's got them. So I just think overall, like give Greeks some credit, right? They made some shots, kept them in the game. Clearly, some of those guys on their team are shot makers, and that's why they're playing on this team. That's their role. And we knew the game plan was going to be double Giannis and force him to give it up. And you'd either have Dylan Brooks or Lou Dort, on him with the double. And credit to Greece. I don't think it's something to really get too concerned about. I mean,
And they
teams are
didn't,
going to
they ended the
teams are going
game
to make
only
shots.
shooting, they only shot 9 of 27, 9 of 32 from three. So they got really hot to begin the game. That kind of kept them in it. And then it faded away in the second half. As Canada, I thought, did a much better job at just knowing where to rotate, not completely giving, helping, but not over helping. And what I would say as well is that I thought the starters were so good on the perimeter to start in sequences where they just stifle guards, and there'd be a couple shot clock violations. And that's something that, last summer when Canada kind of defensively turned it up a level, especially with Dort and Brooks at the helm of that perimeter defense, it really showed itself as the best stretches of basketball Canada played. And I thought in stretches, Canada, when their defense turned up a notch, it kind of led to their offense. Although even though they didn't get too much in transition, I thought overall, the good sign is that their starters were really good. The bad sign is their starters couldn't stay on the court. And I wonder if that's going to be a problem with the fouling heading into the rest of the tournament. The one thing I would say is that I don't think at least in the group stage, neither of these teams will have the same in terms of Australia and Spain. They have some bigs, but nothing like Giannis. And I think that will, be a benefit to Canada, where I don't expect to have the same foul trouble that they did against a guy like Giannis, at least in the rest of the group stage. But shout out to Lou Dort, who made two huge threes
Yeah,
at the end of the game, and then even in the third quarter to halt a little run from the Greeks. I thought Trey Lyles looked a bit out of it. I didn't think his game was very good. I thought Nemhard was steady, but not super flashy. I thought Nikhil played pretty poorly. There was one stretch where he had two wide open corner threes and missed them pretty badly. And he had a couple turnovers. I really don't like when he play makes. I like when all he does is sit in the corner, make threes, or drive and immediately kick. But I don't think when he's doing, pick and rolls, that is not, he can do it, but I don't think at this level he's good enough at doing that. I thought defensively he was all right. But I thought Kelly struggled again.
yeah.
He was 1 of 7 from the floor. I don't think Greece would be the best matchup for him, just because of Giannis in the paint and all their bigs, even though they're not super athletic outside of Giannis, just packing the paint for him. Um, but I think you have the starters, you have Nemhard. If Murray takes it up, this team is going to be pretty good. And I thought the intensity was really great. Like
Yeah.
that first 5 minutes of the game, just the ball of energy, guys flying everywhere. And that was really just cool. I was just like, I appreciate good defense and good energy and intensity. And um, but what's just awesome is just, you know, Maddie, I'm not old enough to remember Michael Jordan. I never watched him. But when I hear people, talk about Michael Jordan in his prime, there's an inevitability to the end of games. And I'm not saying Shea is Michael Jordan at all, but I think the end of game closing is something that there's not a lot of guys in the NBA have, really. I can't think of a guard who I trust at the end of the game right now more than Shea. Maybe Luca, but I still find Luca can be a bit hit or miss in terms of shot making. Um, and that's what Shea has, right? Like he hits that like crazy step back. They go up. The Greeks come back. Trey Lyles hits that, makes that bad turnover. They're down two all of a sudden with a minute left, and you're like, I'm like, uh-oh, but we still have the ball. I
Yeah.
think we're okay. And Shea shimmies, gets by two guys, little teardrop over a sprawling Giannis, and they're like, oh, that's the game, right? And that's the thing that Canada has a closer. He'll make all his free throws too. And it's just so nice to have. Like I wasn't really nervous until that they cut it to two. And then even then I'm like, okay, if they miss this shot, then I'll get nervous, but I still think they'll get a good look. And it was a terrible offensive possession. And Shea just made um creme brulee out of I don't know what. Not creme brulee, but
He's clutch, man. Talk about the all-time guys that are clutch. I mean, he's starting to put his name in there, whether it's MJ or Kobe or whoever, right? I think you just know something good is gonna happen here. He's got a couple different ways to get shots, um, create and beat you. He's very comfortable in the mid range. He don't have to rely on a three to get a shot. So, um, I think Canada, man, and this program, and finally the senior men's national team to have a guy like that, I think everyone feels really good. And I think some of the struggles of other guys hopefully gets a little ironed out here as we move forward. I think, you know, um, I've been a big, advocate for Trey Lyles. I think people know that. And I think he got asked to do something today, which was hard, right? Just come in, defend his ass the best he could against Giannis. And, we're not expecting Trey Lyles to make, four threes to keep us in the game. Just come in, bang a guy around. Um, I thought I thought Nikhil did struggle, and I love Nikhil a lot,
yeah.
and where he put his game to. But I think some of these rotations, once they kind of get sorted out and get shortened up too, because it's like, you just some of them got put into roles and situations today that just didn't. It wasn't going to allow them to be successful. So I think you're going to just see like Shea probably dealing if he can stay out of foul trouble, filter more into the second unit guys, where it's now it's only two or three of them playing with the starters or type thing, and the bench goes to like you know the rotation goes to eight guys, right? So
Mhm.
I know this is stuff they're all going to look at. And,
I I was
I thought they rebounded like as a group, Alex,
gonna say
really well today. Like they as a group, they had throughout the game timely rebounding. Like I thought Shea had timely rebounding. Trey Lyles came up with a couple. RJ just as a group, man, because just the lack of size and that you know the wing guys do rebound well for their size. So I just thought there was moments, Greece would a short rebound too, like off the front of the rim, or off the side, and Canada seemed to be kind of snatching it. I thought there were just timely rebounding that just made a difference in situation and kind of limited some momentum too for Greece, man.
Yeah, I think, it'll be interesting to see against a Serbia or uh, a Germany, even France, obviously the US in terms of Canada's rebounding. But the thing is, the fact of the matter is that even if they have Trey Lyles off the bench and it's Kelly Olynyk, you have 2'7", close to like a 6'10" guy, a 7 foot guy. They're not going to be a great rebounding team, but I think the misnomer is that they're a bad, they're super small. I think it just, are they big enough against the best teams that have size everywhere? And but I think so far through the pre-tournament games and obviously this game, I think their size has been actually they've been okay. They've been solid, and I'm not as worried just because they do have a lot of um for example, I wonder about Kem Birch because I thought he played well defensively when tasked. And I think you can play him with those lineups with, let's say you have Nemhard and Murray, or Shea and Murray, or Shea and Nemhard, and you have two ball creators, and then maybe an RJ. You don't really need your big to do much, right? But it's like if it's the one guard lineups, then it's like, oh, Birch being really nothing offensively is a bit more worrisome.
Yeah,
So for me, there's a bit more of a role for Birch, and I'd like to see more of him. But um, the fact of the matter is that they didn't get eaten up on the offensive glass like they were last year, and I don't foresee them to be beaten up too much. The problem will be is if they play Serbia or US or Germany, that's just way more size than any of the teams they played, even arguably France, who really have two really big players and then not much else. Um, well, depending on who you ask, but yeah, I don't think it should be as big a worry as people are making it out to be.
no, and I think if you put Kim on the floor as like a screener and rim runner just to hit the glass and try to get loose boards, when you have like a combination of Shea Jamal or Shea Nemhard or Jamal Nemhard, like Kem's a really good screener and a big body. He's strong and physical. Then he sets a good screen, and then whoever's handling that ball rolls off, and then now you got the other one ready in a catch and shoot type thing, and they can create as well. So that's something to look out for, I think, moving forward, where maybe Kem plays a little bit more,
Yeah,
just for that role. I think you're right.
yeah. The one thing that I'm curious to see is, are they going to be a decent shooting team? Because they obviously, especially from three, they shot 32% from three today, which was actually better than the Greeks, but it didn't feel that way, right? Outside of a couple Dylan Brooks threes, who was automatic, it feels like, and whenever he plays for Canada, 3 for 4, and RJ Barrett made one, Shea made a couple, but um, it didn't feel like, oh, they're getting a lot of offense leading to open or half looks from the 3 point line. Um, if they can find ways to get Murray more involved off the ball, setting him up for some open jumper, same with Nemhard. I think that's something that I'd like to see their offense do a little bit more, is create a couple more threes in high advantageous positions. Um, Maybe off a pick and roll, drive and kick, kind of like what the Greeks did to open the game. But that's another area of maybe concern, where can they shoot well enough, right? Like last year we kept talking about that, and then Dylan Brooks became 50% from three. He's 75% right now, but I don't think that'll hold. At the same time, it's just, where do they get those, um, enough 3 point shooting? Because that's really how the Greeks stayed in the game, was they just rained a bunch of threes, and it felt like Canada should be up 12 after the first quarter, and it was 4, right? And
Yeah.
it was just because they the Greeks made some shots, and that's the thing Canada will really need to start to do. But overall, I think it's a really good performance. It's gutsy. You know, there's still a chance they don't make it out of the group now, but it feels pretty unlikely, especially the way Spain looked. I don't think Spain is that good. I think in a lot of ways, Canada's much better than last year, and the Spanish are, I don't know, I don't even know if they're better than they were last year at the FIFA World Cup. I think the Aussie game will be a test, but you split those two, you definitely make it, and they should. they should beat the Aussies. And in my opinion, the Aussies might be, even though a tougher test, matchup wise better because it's a lot of NBA guys, less just tall white guys in the corner making threes and banging bodies. I think it'll be more of an NBA style game. And I
Yeah.
think in many ways that'll help out Canada. The problem is I think the Aussies will shoot pretty well and are just talent wise a much better team than Greece overall.
I think this game against Australia is going to be more of a track meet, and it's going to get opened up. So I think some transition opportunities. I think that'll bode well for Canada, and a little bit more of a NBA style matchup, like you said. So that'll be a good one, man. I'm looking forward to that. And, like you said, great start overall. A little bit tense at the end today, but a win is a win, and I think the guys feel ready. I think they feel like maybe a little bit of a chip on the shoulder and a little bit of tension at the end there. So that'll probably drive them forward, and um, they know what's at stake, right? They know that the 24-year gap, and um, I'm sure RJ's had a lot of conversations with Rowan, and it seemed like uh, that mattered a lot today to RJ. He had a great game, and he's going to be a big time X factor. I think a lot of people stress that leading up to this tournament. People know that. Um, had Andrew Wiggins been on this roster, he would be on the floor in minutes and rotations where RJ is now, and RJ is seizing that opportunity. And I think we talked about this last episode, man. But RJ's got a great FIBA style game. He
Yep.
goes hard to the rim, dips that right shoulder with the ball in his left, and um, FIBA officials look for that type of play and contact. So I think this bodes well for him, and he's played a lot of FIBA throughout his career when he's
Eh,
young, right at the U19 and stuff. So he's used to it, man. And he looked good, man. I'm glad you bought stock in him.
I know. Yeah, my tweet about I bought stock on RJ. I was always a believer, but what I would say with RJ that I've liked more about his game this summer than even last was that last year him and Nikhil and even Lou Dort um, would have this propensity to just basically grab the ball, run with it, try to make something out of nothing in transition. And RJ was by far the best at doing that, but he got himself into trouble where he just basically it'd be an empty possession without, he'd just run through a guy. He doesn't really have an advantage. And I haven't really seen any of that where it's just RJ just running down, not looking, the blinders are on and just getting blocked. And he got blocked a couple times, but it made sense. It was in a half court setting. He was trying to force something, get a decent look. And I think he's just much more grounded, calmer, much more assured of himself, making better reads. And I think that's why he's been even more efficient, right? I'll pick it up right now, but he was like 8 of 11. Yeah, he was 8 of 13 from the field, got to the line 9 times, right? Like that's just elite, elite. Oh no, he got to the line 6 times, sorry, but just elite in every respect offensively. And it's just so nice to see. And we're a Raptors show at heart. I think he's going to be very good for the Raptors. I believe this is a real thing. I don't know what his ceiling is at the NBA level, but I do think overall he will be he's going to be a very, very good NBA player in that 18 to 22. I think he's going to be closer to the 55% from two percentage wise. And it's just so nice to see because he's such a fun player to watch on his day, right?
Yeah.
And I think you're really seeing that for Canada, and it's stemming into how he played, I think, for the Raptors. And I think that'll be the same case next year with the Raptors. But overall,
Coming through like his halfway through his season in Toronto, like um, Darko there plays a lot of FIBA style. So I think that's a good situation for RJ, and then him and his family had to go through the unfortunate passing of his brother too. So I think he's set up to have a great year after this summer too, and he's locking in on the moment right now, and it's nice to see, man, because they're going to need him big time.
they're going to need him big time, but make no question about it. This guy can't see it, but Shea Gilgeous Alexander is pretty damn good. And I think just to have, in my opinion, he is probably the best player in this tournament, wholeheartedly. That's how I see it. I think he's better than anyone on the USA. Obviously, cumulatively, that team has much more talent, but there's no one in this tournament that I trust more at the end of the game than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And to have that, as I said, it's like Maple Jordan. People christen that for Andrew Wiggins, but I think they were maybe 5 years too early. And a guy from Hamilton came up, and it's the reincarnation of Maple Jordan, maybe Michael Jordan. But overall, I think really good win. I still believe that this team, at its core, nothing about this game tells me that they can't win a medal, and even that they
Right.
can't win the gold. It's going to be tough, but they're in the group of death, and I'd rather them have these tests now than have an easy group, and then you play Serbia and they're running, crazy actions with Jokic at the post, and things are going bad, and you're down 7 with 10, heading into the fourth quarter, right? Like they've been pushed, right? And I think will continually be pushed. And hopefully, if they win out in this group, they'll get a better seed and have a more advantageous team to play in the quarterfinals. And right now, if you look at it, they can sneak in, win these 3 games. You could be playing a team that you have a pretty good chance at beating, one of the 3 seeds. And I think that will be really good for this team if they were to play a Brazil or Puerto Rico or someone on the likes of that. But overall, really good
I had
win.
a, I had a vision of like today, with getting tested and seeing what they were made of, like of the Brazil game last summer, not the
Yeah.
FIBA World Cup, where, like that game came after a couple easy wins, right, to start the tournament, and then they faced Brazil, and they weren't at their best against Brazil. So, like you said, I'm glad they were tested today early, knowing that this wasn't an easy game. Like they have one of the best players in the world, and some other very good pros. So it's nice to see them push through and um, not falter. And maybe other teams for Canada in the past would have crumbled, but not this group. And I think it just bodes well for the rest of the tournament, man. Like you said,
Well, we will be covering every game for the men's and women's side. Women take action on Monday, middle of the day. I think the game's at 11:15. So I'll be doing a postcast with the guy across the screen from me, Matty Ireland, and then we'll be with some other people later on. But great start. I could not be joined by anyone else that I'd love. I'm so happy that it's me and you, Maddie. The diehards, the biggest diehards, baby. Um, and can't wait to keep covering this team. It's gonna be a blast. And as our, the CEO of Canada Basketball, Mike Bartlett keeps saying, it's like this is like they're making moments this summer, right? And I think Shea making, that swag that every time he makes a step back, just like you can't guard me, you know. There's going to be more and more moments, and I can't wait to share it with everyone at Raptors Republic and you here with me, Maddie, and let's get it. Let's go 3-0 in the group and on to the quarters, and let's do it, boys. Let's do it.
sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for listening, and we'll be back on Monday. Take care.